So hi, Laure, Lydie, I'm really delighted to host this roundtable with you today about the role in AI, of AI in what may be the most human of all financial services, private banking. So welcome to both of you, and to begin our discussion, I'd like to ask each of you, how is AI currently being used within your respective banks, and how have you specifically addressed the emergence of Gen AI in your strategy? Maybe, Laure, if you want to start.
With pleasure. So in the group, I would say that the AI started in 2018 with the asset management division launching the ODDO BHF Artificial Intelligence Fund. So it is a fund aimed to use AI in its own investment strategy, and based on an NLP algorithm that is targeting different and the most promising companies in the wide investment universe. It is using this technology to deliver to the portfolio managers a selection of these promising companies. A second example I can give is within the brokerage industry, where a data scientist team developed an ad hoc if I can say, call list management to better target the client once a research paper is published. And these two use cases were really the one convincing the management that we must put in place a wider transformation program encompassing not only this kind of business project, but some topics discussed earlier in previous roundtable around data governance, data management, and data culture overall in the group, allowing to accelerate the different business projects. So this is for AI, and you mentioned also generative AI, which of course had a great hype after the launch of ChatGPT. And for that, we are more in a trial process of, on one side, having generic technologies like Microsoft Copilot to put it in the hands of the users and pilot users and trying to identify use cases. And on the other hand, testing some use cases like chatbots on different applications that we can have for the moment for internal collaborators.
It's funny because our journey is quite comparable. I think the first real AI initiative there was also NLP. It was to help the asset manager summarize discussions or reporting that they had to share with their clients. And more recently, of course, Gen AI is our first focus. And we have several use cases, either in pilot or in production. We started, as with NLP, working with startups. So it was our first move. So the startup for NLP was EasyUp, which was pretty much an earlier generation of Gen AI, really. And now we're working closely with Lingua Custodia. They were here today. The startup team was there. We're working with them on several use cases for all the employees of the group, such as translation, turning speech into text, and also being able to query on data within documents. And it was important for us to start with rather let's say, generic use cases that could benefit all the bank. And then now we're moving to more business line-oriented cases along the way.
Okay, very interesting to see the similarities between your two journeys. Lydie, you've mentioned business use cases, so of course we want to deep dive in. And so the potential applications of AI in private banking is vast, very diverse. So which use case are likely to be the most promising in your view? And as you look ahead, on which use case are you planning to focus on first to generate adoption and to generate value?
Well, I don't know if we have started by the most promising ones, because sometimes they're the hardest ones as well. So we made the same, let's say, trade-off that everybody does, I guess, impact versus do I know how to do it? And we selected a few. Most of these are under the supervision of Crédit Agricole Group Exco, so it's really to show how strategic they are to us. The first one is about helping the front office staff in their everyday task, meaning preparing for a meeting, meaning getting to understand the kind of to-do list that they're facing depending on the situation of the client or the prospect. And it may seem a bit trivial, but in the kind of companies we live in, there are so many exotic procedures and so many one-to-one situations that the front office have to face, that you have to have that kind of help, really. So we are just providing them with a tool that will hopefully help them focus on being with their customer and not trying to make out a sense within all our knowledge base, etc., and procedures.
So build the trust with very useful tools. Is it the way that you decided to follow at ODDO?
I fully agree that for the moment it's a bit early to know exactly where the most impactful use cases will be, and what we call the value pools, because it really AI ranges, and Gen AI allows really to address topics from back offices to the front offices. Maybe one use case I can elaborate on, which is interesting, is that, of course, we try to have use cases for I would say effective management, administrative management, which is a huge workload. Now we also try to put it in the hand of the salesperson, of the bankers, having, for instance, a chatbot in the CRM and directly embedded in the CRM to synthesize the main activities of the client and giving impact to the banker. So it is not directly facing the client, but giving meaningful information. And on top of getting adoption from the bankers in using this technology, what we want to achieve also is enriching and better enriching the CRM and having a virtuous cycle of the data management, meaning that if, and we all know, data is about garbage in, garbage out, so we clearly need them to enrich the data, clean the data, and if they find it useful to retrieve the data from it, then they will feed it more. So this is some ways that we have identified that we feel will be virtuous in the future. We now have to scale it to be impactful.
Thank you very much. Wealth management is a very intuitive persona business, very intuitive persona relationship between a client and its banker, based on trust, based on deep knowledge, intimacy with the client, and on expertise. So how do you see a space for AI in the core business, in the relationship between the client and its banker? Let's say, will self-care and chatbot remain a taboo in private banking? Will bankers use AI to build solutions to enhance their allocation strategies for their clients tomorrow? How do you see this space?
Clearly, as you said, trust is really the key point. We have first to convince the employees. And we all know that hallucinations can happen with this kind of technologies, so we will not put it in the hand of the clients at the beginning, but starting to empower the employees with it. As I speak from the group perspective, we will try to put it first in the hand of B2B businesses before going to B2C. And as private wealth management is clearly not mass market, but really intuitive personae, as you said, it is clearly where we will see that it is more helping the bankers in doing best their jobs. We do not see in the short or mid-term direct impact in the direct relation.
Same here. It's a deeply intimate relationship that the wealth managers have with their clients, and it's. I think the end game would be if the end client really perceived the use of the technology as something that helps us deliver better service, have an enhanced customer experience, and not something as just our company looking for efficiency. So I think that we will master the challenge through a better service and better value perceived by the clients. And I think then we won't have an issue with the wealth manager. They will be convinced by default.
Okay, thank you very much. So I want to come back to a topic that you mentioned earlier, the trust in the solution. So it's all about adoption, actually. And so we are all aware of the current challenges surrounding AI projects, which are basically mastering the technology, scaling, generating user adoption, and most recently, and let's start with that, the heightened expectations for return on investment. So how are you addressing these issues in your banks, and specifically maybe Lydie as a head of innovation, as a chief innovation officer, sorry. How do you balance the need for exploring and domesticating, let's say, this new technology and generate value and return on investment?
I think that of course, it's a challenge to prove return on investment for any kind of digital tool, any kind of innovation. Let's say the journey that we started is really based on having the ability to fail fast. And so we're using all the tips and tricks of innovation to try and not invest in the wrong solutions or in making big investments fast. And so we are really going for an iterative approach and an agile one. And this is really to help also our sponsor commit and realize that we are being very pragmatic about this and not just burning cash and investing millions when we don't know if we will have something back. So we started with a design sprint approach, which is really coming from startups and how can we prove really fast whether we are right or wrong. And this is our best, let's say, proof of faith that we got from our sponsors. And we don't want to have a short-term vision. We are really convinced that this is a major leap, something that is really huge for all the industry, really. And so we should be really careful about drawing conclusions on short-term, because it's probably the best way to fail, given the adoption challenge that we face.
So, Laure, do you address the topic of ROI the same way as Indosuez does?
Yes, completely. And I will make the parallel with the second challenge, which is our major challenge in the group for the moment, which is the scaling and industrializing and the technology. So it comes also with the time you have to put in place the right technologies, so the ROI that you get in the end. And clearly, it is a challenge on two dimensions. The first one is the technology. Technologies evolve very fast. We have seen that in the past with data analytics, where some groups have built huge data lakes, invested a lot of money, and for results that are mitigated. Now there are more advanced technologies on that. It is a bit the same with AI at the moment, and we all know that in groups there is a technological stack that must evolve, that must be flexible enough and agile enough to onboard these new technologies. This is the first one, and the second one are the skills, because the people, we have to hire new people that have new competencies, data engineers, MLOps, and to have the right management in place, whether within the technological team or within the business team. And this is a challenge to hire these people and also to upskill the current workforce to be able to maintain these teams in the long term. And this is clearly where, even if I feel, at least in the group, that we have a clear sponsorship of the management supporting us in this direction, we nevertheless have to convince them exactly on the investments that we have to make and to prove quite rapidly afterwards that these were the right investments to do for the use cases. So as you said, it's when it comes to new topics, innovation, the the hypothesis or the probability that it will have a huge impact, we never exactly know.
Great. So last but not least, we all know that most Gen AI projects fail because of adoption. And in private banking, you have private bankers, which are not necessarily the most easy population to move and to transform. It's mostly expert people, very strong at what they do. So do you have a tactic? Do you have set up an approach to ensure adoption and to build the trust that we have been talking about all along this roundtable?
Well, I think one of the things that is actually working is making them, putting them in a situation, a personal situation, and have a really hands-on moment, not necessarily based on professional use cases. We've been doing this for quite some time with the entities of the group, and it's working quite well. We just give them the opportunity to test in a stress-free environment all kinds of tools, because when we're talking Gen AI, of course, we have a huge range of different capabilities, really. And the idea is just to give them the opportunity to say, oh, okay, this may ring a bell for my professional life. And for example, when we had one of these workshops, we figured that it would be a great opportunity to provide training, almost one-to-one training through Gen AI with the bankers, putting them in a sort of scenario and role play with the chat, and saying, okay, you have in front of you the owner of a company that does this and that, and you have to convince this owner to become a client. What do you do? And now with also the voice capabilities that we have, it's really it's so natural, and so now they can really touch and see the value that it could bring tomorrow.
Okay, so hands-on training, huge investment in training, one-to-one. Providing them with a tool so you can see like use cases emerge bottom-up. Laure, do you have other ingredients for this secret sauce?
Clearly, shifting from theory to reality is a key point. Everyone needs to feel what it means. One key point that we have is also to do that for all management levels. So meaning we have trained the top management, putting some technologies in their hands during an offsite, a full day where they can discuss between them about that, doing ad hoc sessions with our 100 leaders of the group, having also dedicated offsites on data, how they envision it for their business unit in the future or for their department. Two, having, I would say, awareness events in the group regularly to speak about data, to speak about AI with concrete projects of the group, external speakers, and in the end, specific communities where we see that it gathers either expert people sometimes, having dedicated chats where when they have a typical issue, technical issue, they will share it, or communities more with people interested to jump in and to just have a word of it and have a say. So these are different elements of the data culture, and maybe the last one is having dedicated trainings too. For the moment, we focus on data analytics for a wider population. When it comes to AI, it is still experts that are targeted, but we want to deploy it for other interested people in the groups. So it's a key element in the end, adoption by most of the employees, and it requires many different levers to achieve it.
Okay, thank you very much. It's really interesting to see how you are building this future symbiosis between the best bankers, the private bankers, and the best of AI to see what you can leverage in the client relationship and the whole business. So thank you very much. We would like you to explain you how it works, next year, maybe on stage, to see the results that you could deliver in this year. So let's meet in 1 year at the Grand Palais and talk about the path that you have taken this year. Thank you very much, and see you maybe next year.
Thank you.